Good. All right. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this dreaming session or AI roundtable, where we will explore the AI development around coherence. Um, you're all invited because you are somehow involved in AI development and are potential partners also for coherence. So we thought it would be great to invite you here together to bring our minds and hearts together to tap into, yeah, I think both in general, this AI development that we're working on, but also specifically in this case for coherence. And yeah, we know that part of this future is also interoperability. So yeah, instead of trying to figure it all out by ourselves, let's come together, and yeah, there might be even cross fertilization between all of us. Um, and so this, I don't know, Christine, I think came up with this idea of a creative ceremony. I kind of like that. That's kind of what it is. So we've also invited Maggie here as kind of a surprise. She is a visual artist, and she will live paint and draw, yeah, whatever we're dreaming up here. So also during the session, you can, go to the tab with her shared screen and simply go into this multidimensional space and let it guide you to dream, to tap into the cosmos, and yeah, into this space where humans and technology meet each other. We will be recording this session and publishing it as well as part of our Build in Public um, approach to coherence, which is something that we aim to do through coherence as an event with the recorded conversations, but it's also how we aim to build coherence. Um, so yeah, welcome all. Good to have you here. Good to have you here, Maggie. Um, I don't know. Do you want to share a few words, Maggie? Just briefly.
Sure. So, hi everyone. I'm really grateful to be here, and yeah, I will try to channel what I'm experiencing through your conversation into these visuals, and I'm really inspired by your approach to AI, and I also work with AI, so this is really meaningful. So yeah, I'm pleased to be here. Thank you.
Maggie. Maybe to get started, let's do a quick grounding. So yeah, let's close our eyes and simply feel where we sit on the chair, where our sit bones meet the chair, where our feet meet the ground. Take a few deep breaths. Feel the difference in tone of the in and out breath. Feel the difference in temperature between the in and the out breath. Feel your heartbeat. And feel if there's any tension in your body. If there's any tension, simply breathe into it and consciously relax. If there's any mind chatter, let it silence and dissolve like the clouds. Be present right here, right now. For today, let's welcome also the field of technology, this field of infinite potential that we will play with today. Maybe connect to your relationship with technology, what kind of role it plays in your life. And how we can embrace it, welcome it, play with it here today in this session. Take a few more deep breaths. And in your own pace, come back to the space. Daphne's enjoying it in the space. Nice. Welcome. All right. So we'd like to start with a short warm-up question. Let everyone share for a minute or so. And we have the question to start with. In 20 years from now, if we look back, assuming that we all have survived whatever is to come, what has AI done for humanity in enabling better relationships and collaborative ecosystems? Maybe, yeah, take a few seconds to just tune into that question, and yeah, whenever someone feels like sharing, and mute yourself.
Yeah, I can go ahead. Beautiful question. In my opinion, AI has played a major role in liberating us humans from activities that are keeping us away from each other. So, admin, project management, trying to run from call to call to call to figure out what the best interfaces for collaboration are instead of actually diving in and collaborating and being together. So also developing solutions for organizations, so a corporate version of the Hive, and we see how much time people actually spend with activities that human beings should just no longer continue to do, like accounting, finance, just spending time behind spreadsheets that could be used in either getting more in touch with yourself or with the people within the organization, and to really free up the time and bandwidth to connect with purpose, with something higher, with something way more meaningful. So in that sense, for me, AI is a big tool for liberation.
Yannik, whoever feels inspired to go next, can unmute yourself.
I can go. So for me, the AI enables us to more richly and more effectively organize and make use of the potential of our online relationships. Because now each of us has thousands, some people have tens of thousands of connections, followers, friends, whatever, in our social media, but there's absolutely no effective way to make use of that, to keep those kinds of connections. But with an AI, we can. So suddenly we go from our neurocortex ability, Dunbar number, or whatever, to much, much greater. I think that extension of our ability to relate will be incredible.
I'll go. I guess I have a fantasy that AI can also help us restore our relationship with nature as well. So I think there is a strong role to play there, even though there are a lot of issues with the mechanics of AI, like the data centers and the rare minerals and all of that. But I think there is a balance, and I hope the humans can figure that out, and that somehow there's a sensitivity that is restored for people to engage with the living world.
I will jump in of connecting with that because the potential that I see is, yes, connecting us more to the natural world, but again, at a scale where we couldn't ever do it before. I can walk through a forest, I can connect with my garden, but to sense and if I live in a place, I can develop a relationship and I can even sense how healthy the ecosystem is. But doing that at global scale, which is what we need for solving a lot of the challenges that we're facing, it's just very hard, right? And the data and such, the way it's presented, it's a scientist can understand it, but most people cannot. So I imagine the AI synthesizing the state of the world at large in such a way that we can relate to it. And thus we can build the AI can help us build a relationship with Gaia, with Earth as a whole.
Okay, Victor. I actually just wanted to hear everyone once, but thanks for jumping in. Daphne, Andrew, would you like to share? You're muted, Daphne.
I see what I wanted to say appear on the screen. So this is my cue. So I always love to say that we're putting the heart into technology. Not that it has an actual heart, but it enables, I think, us to connect from heart. So translating that to AI, I think there's also an evolution we're going to see, or we're already in. We needed the sort of duality, the zero and the ones, to be able to develop technology. And I think now we will be able to add wisdom, and AI is also standing in a way, it's the same letters of ancestral intelligence. So I would say the hybrid intelligence coming from heart connection and being able to connect at scale makes the meaning. And to me, the meaning is not just merely sort of functional, like, hey, we're going to be less productive, or we're going to sort of not do the things we don't like as spreadsheets. Sometimes I actually do like spreadsheets, but it's more like I would say there is this element of joy, and that definition is per person different. So it allows us to, I think, enjoy at scale what the role of AI can be, to connect this to a larger meaning than just ourselves. And then I think the artist part comes in, because we're all artists. So I have a feeling we can also amplify our expression at scale, so that we can connect with resonance and hence act faster together and all connected. And I love the art now. Thank you.
Amazing, thank you. Andrew, you want to share, or shall I share something? I wasn't even thinking about sharing, but maybe I also can share.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Yes, I'll echo that the art is really wonderful. Thank you. Really adds a vibe. I think when you asked this question about, in 20 years, there's something that hit me that I hadn't ever projected us that far forward, with the really concrete feeling of, wow, this is going to be around then, this thing that's just starting now, that's so new and nascent and unknown, is like, it's almost, I mean, it's unfathomable what it will be like in 20 years. So what comes to me is that one thing that will come from that is that we will all get to know much more what is truly human, what can only humans do. I feel like that will be a conversation that's going to be going on. I mean, it already is, but in a deeper and deeper way, that what is it that just humans can do that's unique? So not an exact answer to that question, but that's my thought.
Amazing, Andrew, thank you. I can also chip in on that. I kind of feel similar about the role of AI. I feel it's a big mirror for humanity, which shows us better indeed what makes us human, and also it's kind of amplifying everything that is this. It's an amplifier, so it also amplifies what is dysfunctional, and it will make us reflect, like, oh, how will we use these kind of technologies? How will we evolve as humanity? How do we come back to ourselves? How do we come back to the heart? How do we learn to live meaningfully, without relying on all kinds of external things? And I think, technology is kind of a cherry on the cake that can, make life, can emulate it or enhance it. But it will never be able to properly solve anything. We need to do that ourselves. So my hope and vision for AI is to be that mirror, to help us look ourselves into the eyes and each other eventually more and more. And I think on top of that, AI does have the potential to really interconnect that collective brain that humanity is, where each of us are this node. And I love seeing this with kind of the knowledge graphs that are happening, like this new way of storing data. It's already happening in the way that AI is being designed. So yeah, it gives us the opportunity to really become this super organism, this big organism that is humanity, to unite us and to work together. So yeah, exciting things ahead. All right. So that's the warm-up question, just to get us into the topic, into the space. And we will now move towards coherence and look more at what can AI mean for coherence. Maggie, she has to leave at 20 minutes past, so probably halfway during this streaming we will have a short break to give her some space to share as well, and then we can continue after. Victor, if you're up to it, I actually would like to pass the ball to you here to share just briefly about the origin of coherence, and specifically what has been your vision around the role of AI in building coherence.
Sure. I mean, so is there two questions or is there one question? I think the role of AI in building coherence is, I mean,
Simply share your vision around the AI agent for coherence, like that.
so coherence in a nutshell, I started having calls with people for promoting the gathering last year. I had 200 or 300 calls with amazing change makers, and I came to the end of the year and I went like, wow, that was amazing. So many amazing humans doing amazing work. And oh my God, what a waste that I didn't record all of these calls. So starting this year, I started recording the calls and then and publishing them. And then I quickly came to the conclusion it's not about me talking to people, right? My goal is not to the podcast. There is just so much value in these kinds of connecting conversations that we can have. So, how can I create something that will enable many people to talk to many people in this kind of connect for action, discovering each other's work and connecting way? Also, I've been observing the general tech world, the tech for good world for 30 years, and just seeing so much duplication, so many people not knowing about each other, etc., etc. And whilst I can't smash people into you guys should be working together, at least I can create something which ensures that people know about each other and that they connect, right? And then we'll let serendipity happen. So how can we create something where we can have hundreds of people talking to each other, having hundreds to thousands of conversations, but of course nobody's going to watch 100 conversations, not even nobody's going to watch 1,000, not even 100 conversations really. But how do we help them find in those conversations what's relevant to them? So coherence, so to speak, exposes in digital form the state of a collaboration ecosystem, but then to actually generate intelligence across all of this, a intelligence at scale, collective intelligence, I mean, only AI can do that. So my thought was, yeah, I mean, primarily in the end of for people finding other people through the conversations those other people have had with other people. Right. So given this coherence pool of humans' ideas, which conversation should I watch? Who should I potentially connect with or have a conversation? Is that a good enough summary, Bart?
That's perfect, Victor. Thanks. It's for someone who is waking up in the middle of the night, that's very sharp. Yeah.
Yes,
So
and
that
then the other one, sorry, there was one
oh,
more
very
idea
good.
that came after that, is looking at this pool of conversations, who is having similar conversations, right? And also, what conversations are we not having? I think that can be interesting. Which topics are not being discussed? Where are we weak as an ecosystem? Thank you.
Nice. That's perfect. Yeah, so we want to kind of build on this context and jam on this together. So we have formulated a question to dive deeper. I'll put it in the chat. So the question that we like to zoom in on is, what is really needed to weave coherence amongst fractalized conversations between humans? So these fractalized conversations are these, conversations that are happening asynchronous across time and space, like we're doing with coherence. And what role could AI play in facilitating that, so that humans and AI get wiser together? We've been trying to put everything in there. So it's a very all-encompassing question, but I think it's also focused enough to have a an interesting conversation and explore the different aspects of the whole spectrum, both the technology, but also tapping into what is really needed on this human scale to create coherence, and maybe even what is coherence. So there's a lot of questions in here. Feel free to answer in whatever way you like, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it's good to let's take 1 minute of silence to just sit with the question, tune in with yourself, and see what comes up before we go into sharing. All right. So I suggest that everyone gets a chance to first share for a minute or so, and then afterwards we can popcorn style and build on everything that's been shared. So again, whoever feels called to share can unmute and share.
I can start.
Go ahead.
On the most practical and simple level, I think what would be great is a way of being notified of connections and opportunities and, conversations that I might be interested in or might want to be a part of. Something I've noticed about Coherence is that there's a lot going on, and there's a self-directed aspect to it, which I really like. And also, Bart, I really liked when you were like giving a little nudge to say, hey, you should really, connect with this person or check out this person's work. And that's a lot of work for you as a human to be doing that for everybody as a facilitator. So having that role, given to an AI agent, thinking of this hive metaphor that we've been working with of like a beehive, just, having a little bee, they kind of buzz in my ear and say, hey, check this out. That would be nice.
Awesome, thank you.
I can go. I feel like when you're exposed to so much input, it's a practice of learning boundaries. So maybe over time, people will be practicing hardcore boundary setting, but in the most loving way, where you have to practice ultimate discernment in order to realize what is for you in this greater realm of possibility. So that is a form of mastery that more people will need to take on.
I would like to maybe go a step on a infrastructure level. So I would first like to see a network of hubs that bring together the fragmented parts of the whole, and then basically bring together the different conversations happening async and decentral. And then AI basically plays a role in bringing together the not only fragmentized conversations, but the conversations happening, to also to Victor's note, you know, what conversations are not happening or what conversations are happening in all these different spheres. And then AI can basically play a role in convening, matching, sense making, categorizing, and then connecting back. And then basically the whole thing starts over again on a continuous basis, real time.
Nice, beautiful. Yannik, Victor?
Yes. There are a few elements here. We've been sitting on that for a while to think about how can we really create AI that is meaningful in that context. So the first element is just simply cartography. So you're having a bunch of conversations, let's say 50, 100 conversations across an ecosystem. So you get a snapshot of what is actually going on at the moment. But then we have tested one system with the World of Wisdom podcast. They have 250 episodes, amazing conversations. But it's just an overwhelming amount of information. So you're still being kept in consuming rather than really understanding where are the conversations heading and what is in it for me and for the ecosystem. So the second element is intentionality. So you kind of want to figure out, okay, after this initial assessment, where are we heading as an ecosystem? Which direction is emerging? And how can we synthesize information from the AI in order to nudge future conversations deeper down the rabbit hole? So to explore uncovered ground, right? We know it, we're in a Zoom call for 2 hours. And after hour number one, we're getting to the very interesting bits. And then the whole conversation vanishes. And we're getting back together 3 weeks after. And we kind of have to start from like maybe 10% of the depth that we reached in the conversation before. So really having an AI that from the second round of coherence can nudge people into deeper corners or uncovered grounds and letting that surface to show everyone who's following the conversations the evolution of it would be an extremely valuable element because then we can really move forward as an ecosystem. Because if I'm entering a call without intention, I recognize what emerges, but I'm like it's still difficult to move through space without knowing what I actually want to get from it. So those are two elements that I think are very important.
Nice. Victor?
Yeah, I mean, I'm connecting with what everybody says, and what I'm hearing is what we actually want is an agent, an active agent for guiding you through coherence, right? I was already thinking for this, for inviting people onboarding and into participation. Yeah, I don't know. Nothing else comes to mind at this point.
Good. Just a reflection from my side. From what Yannick said, I got this idea also of like working in stages where you first have something of a mapping stage where you start mapping the ecosystem and see and sense, and then from there have a moment of reflection and see, okay, where are we? What is it? What's next? And then from there go into the next stage of evolution. And I think, yeah, using these kind of season or cyclical patterns, they can help also for people to focus like, okay, now we're going through this phase, we focus on this, maybe have some specific questions to be able to identify what's alive in the ecosystem, and then have a next stage where you go deeper. So I like that. Andrew, I see you. I also see there's a lot of things shared in the chat. Maybe it's good to presence that before we go into further popcorn. Or maybe Andrew, I see you in that chat. So maybe you can summarize, synthesize it here and share your thoughts, and then we can just popcorn. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. The chat is mostly about this idea of the AI agent that Victor was mentioned. But I wanted to pick up on something that Yannik was saying about this kind of like giving a sense of the larger direction of the conversation. I feel like that's a great point, very important. And also there's this question of how do we as humans experience all of these different conversations. So one way would be a kind of like synthesis, like meta distillation by some kind of an AI agent. But that's actually not interfacing necessarily with the human dimension of it. Like part of what's really valuable is hearing people actually speaking, getting a sense of their energy, their personality. So I think like the modality in which we interface with the conversations, the media that we interface with it is a good question too. One thing that came to me is like an AI agent. I don't think we quite have the tech for it, but probably not far off. That could listen to the conversations and kind of select out little bits of relevant topics from different conversations and like weave them together into sort of a tapestry of audio or video. That's something that I'm thinking about a lot is the media component, but that's the way that I could certainly receive a lot. I could, say, what are people talking about in terms of AI agents and all these coherence conversations? And then I could just get a stream of, you know, 50 different conversations, the relevant tidbits. Is that making sense? Just kind of like as a way of hearing humans talking about it rather than just getting a summary.
Yeah, absolutely. So more AI being a curator in a way of the
Yeah.
different pieces of content. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but the one thing that I wanted to say also about that, yes, and it kind of in a way would be a little bit contradictory to what Yannik is suggesting, which is that I would get my own curated sense of the direction the conversation is going, given what question I asked and what I'm interested in, versus like a full, picture of it. So there's that balance of how do we want to look at the conversation? How do we want to hear it? Thanks for listening.
Thanks for sharing.
Uh, if I may jump in, the next idea that came to me is, I mean, the goal is to try and walk people through the process of conversation, relationship, collaboration, right? We're focused on conversation, but really the goal is to get people to connect for action. So how could this AI, and I mean, we're not building a whole collaboration system, right? My vision is that coherence is the gateway drug. It's the tip of the iceberg that moves people into collaboration. So imagine a follow-up agent, bot, whatever we call them, that looks at, it's like, oh, you mentioned in your conversation that you should do this or you should do that. I mean, from action lists, but then after that, pinging people about follow-up and seeing if suggestions could be made. And then also interweaving follow-ups across conversations. Oh, A and B said that they would talk about, I don't know, how to use technology, and C and D also talked about it. Maybe you could all talk about it together.
Yeah, exactly. This is where I see a big chunk of the value of it for AI to really synthesize all of these different bits so that Andrew mentioned, which AI can do already. It picks up all the chunks of people who had overlapping conversations and it can prepare the follow-up conversation in a way more quote unquote effective way than humans could because it can already nudge you to the edge. So as an intro in the first minutes of the conversation, you could have that full rundown of guys, this is the ground that we have covered already, but these are the areas which are open that we want to explore together that we have not covered yet. So any gaps in the ecosystem, in knowledge, in perspective, and AI really being here to prepare this initial, I want to call it brief of the conversation to get everyone onto like the same page and then really help to guide the conversation into different areas and thereby again mapping our understanding and expanding our understanding of that area of the ecosystem.
It's like the bee dance. Do you know the bee dance? I keep thinking of like the ecosystem biomimicry thing, but the bee dance is there's like a bee that finds, you know, pretty patch of flowers and comes back into the hive and like does a little dance to tell everybody else where to go. But I not to repeat myself too much, but Yannik, in terms of that kind of like building coherence before a meeting, um, I keep coming back to this idea of like how do we get that brief, right? Like I could just get a little summary, kind of like I would get from ChatGPT, that works, but it's not the most human thing. Like how do we humanize it so it actually sticks in our brain? It's like if we could get some sort of recap of the previous meeting, but with like if we were actually in the meeting, like little moments from that meeting where it's like, oh yeah, they said that, and I remember the feeling of that. I remember those words, you know. So it's like not just this kind of abstracted thing, but like coming back to the felt sense.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. And talking about the abstracted sense, I think this is a good cue to go to Maggie because she has to leave in about 4 minutes. And I thought it would be nice to ask her to do this midway reflection and share what she's been receiving and transmitting. Yeah, Maggie, would you like to share?
Of course, yeah. Well, guys, like it's been super inspiring, like to hear a more human approach to what's happening, like to this revolution of AI. What I've been receiving is this connection, this sense of like more emotional and human and considerate and big approach where the center of everything is like to be a human being and our connection between us. And it's been really, really inspiring, like listen to each one of you and your inputs. And I hope I translate them with the visuals as good as possible. It's been like really enjoyable for me. So I hope I yeah, add value into the meeting. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Maggie.
Thanks for
It's
coming.
been a joy having you here and adding this magic touch to this experience. Yeah. So feel free
My
to
pleasure, guys.
go. Yeah, we'll be in touch and yeah, we'll follow up later. So is there more that wants to be shared on this question that we have just been exploring, or would we like to shift to another question? Let's see if there's still anything alive here. Daphne.
Yeah, so for me, what came up sort of strongly, bodily even, is like the relevance of it all. I mean, there is, the coherence, I think we can quickly come to some sort of coherence. But then I think for me, the next would be the relevance in connection with collaboration. So to say, okay, it's not necessarily only about the conversations. That's also what Victor was sort of started also to refer to. For me, it would be to say, okay, how can we use this to then collaborate at scale as an ecosystem of ecosystems? So the conversation is for me a entryway. It's not for me. It's not the goal. and that's why I think the relevance and connecting it to collaboration without sort of diving too deep into that part would be something for me that, you know, wants to be expressed or explored even.
One thing I want to chip in here is that I would also be very interested to have an AI agent that helps us reflect on the conversations that we're having. Like Andrew was also tapping into, like, how do we experience this conversation, and did we actually experience coherence here, right? Can we somehow measure that sense of coherence? Like, hey, is there something alive here in this connection, or is it just random people talking about a shared topic? You know, because there's the mental level, but there's also the feeling level, and when we work from the heart, we are very much guided by resonance. And so I think it would be very interesting to also capture that dimension. And that's something that AI cannot do for us, unfortunately. I don't know. I mean, we
Maybe
can
fortunately.
if say what?
Maybe fortunately it can't do that for
Maybe
us.
fortunately, exactly, exactly. And so I think AI needs to have this reflective element where it lets us, you know, tune deeper into ourselves and feel and then share, but not let AI do all the work for us. Um, and maybe even like there's another side thought that I had, like maybe we can even work with heart math, for example. They have these devices and you can actually measure heart coherence and system coherence. So if we can actually measure that live during conversations and then map, like, okay, where's that coherence happening and between who is this coherence strongest? I mean, that's going to be interesting. You know, then we have also the hard data that we can connect to AI. Um, to visualize and make it more specific and concrete where coherence is happening.
Yeah, I love that, Bart. And I have two thoughts. One is that, you know, the kind of AI that could be developed in this space with that kind of consciousness and just in general, the quality that people are bringing to the conversations, there's an incredible value in that. I mean, like for the system, for humanity, and also like a you know, monetary value or whatever. Um, like it's a different way of training an artificial intelligence rather than like letting it scour, you know, Twitter and become a neo-Nazi, which I was just reading about this morning. But like it's the opposite of that. So there's that piece, which is like this idea of how do we train our own AI to have it and be in coherence with us. That's like the question of the larger picture. But the other thing that I was thinking about is, you know, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes with you all for Coherence, the conference, but you know, so I would love it to continue. Like to me, it feels like a space where conversations can keep happening, and there's plenty of conversations that I haven't had a chance to arrange yet, and also that as I'm watching more of the conversations on YouTube, there's more ideas. And so to me, it would be great if this could be an ongoing space. And I don't know if there needs to be facilitation around that. I think it can just keep living now. But I'm hoping that there's an invitation for everybody to keep participating.
So I think what we uncovered here is two additional ideas or angles. One is this, because we've been kind of thinking of until now, primarily, I think, coherence as a post-facto thing, which reads, watches the conversation afterwards and generates stuff. But
You
yes,
mean the
there
AI
could very
agent, right? You're
AI
talking about
agent,
the AI
yes.
agent. Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. But we can entirely envision a live, an AI agent which joins the conversation live, right? And you can actually, I think, analyze a lot of coherence from the conversation through conversational patterns. You know, there is lots of things, a lot of emotion comes through from, we can detect that from how we speak, turn taking and other things like this. So there can be a lot that could be done live. And then also we can envision the coherence, which is not just the AI, coherence AI, which is not just passive, but which actively guides a conversation, right? I mean, I was just thinking of a UI that pops up questions, but it could actively be listening to conversation and say, oh, by the way, guys, you've all just geeking out on the tech, but what about the business or right? You know, the intention of this call was to talk about these things, and this is what you haven't talked about. So this would be a more advanced, but yeah, I can definitely see that being possible. And then the other one is this idea of coherence being as the input for building an idea space, right? For generating our view of the world, which is, yeah, I think that's as we move forward, this idea of who programmed or what was this AI fed and what does it believe, it's already in the news, right? I don't know if you guys saw the thing with Elon Musk didn't like the answers out of his AI, and he twisted the AI to have a different ideological point of view. And I think that's going to become the default. I mean, so those two ideas I think are interesting.
Yeah, nice. Just to add to that, and also, Bart, to your question of how to add the more emotional element and how people are experiencing conversations. We were also thinking about that, and to really not have the AI try to overanalyze everything that's happening in one conversation. This reflective element can also be integrated through the agent prompting every speaker of the conversation afterwards. Hey, drop me a 5-minute voice note on how you've experienced the call. What lit you up? Where did you experience tension? Where did you experience coherence? So really like relying on our human senses, our humanness, in order to inform the AI, so it can also add another dimension to the conversation that happened, right? Maybe 80% of people talk about a certain topic, but everyone is feeling tension around it. So it actually doesn't really show coherence, but it shows just that there's this massive elephant in the room that needs to be addressed. So the AI can then flip the other conversations around and try to really cut to the chase instead of being like, oh, guys, you seem so coherent around the world going down in 2035. Amazing, let's head there. It can add this level of intelligence to be like, whoa, 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 we have a problem, and let's address that, and thereby adding more dimensions. So the AI actively listening to how people experience conversation and movement through an ecosystem.
I love this. I want to chip in on it because basically, as a board whisperer, I often do basically that to just see whether everybody in the room is nodding, and then I see, I sense that there's something else the case. So I can imagine also the unset based on the analysis that now somebody says something and then nobody sort of responds to it, or all these little things that we know as humans are signs of non-coherence. You can basically also use to incorporate it, and it gets a bit of fun, but you maybe can also actively feed things in. So it's not just a passive agent, but you can basically decide what human interaction you want to feed into this. And then, it's more a human fabric merged with AI outcome. But I love that element. At least it makes me a bit, smile. And I think various conversations were also like, how do you incorporate your project knowledge and project, basically where you stand with a project. So I can also imagine that the outcome of different coherence conversations is then in a different layer mapped with what you're actually doing. And then the insight from it feeds into basically suggestions on more how about this level from my project collaboration perspective. That's, I think, what now sort of, pops up with me.
Yeah, interesting. I think also there's this question of like, what is it? How do we notice incoherence? And this thing you're saying, like, how do we service the thing that's not set, and how do we move with that? Like, how can we? Is there some, like, what it also holds information, right? And there's something to be done there. We shouldn't just focus on coherence, but also on the other side of the spectrum. Okay, incoherence. What does that mean? What can we do with that? How can we? What can we unlock here?
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think this is where direction is also really interesting in terms of incoherence, because we also have many different organizations developing the Hive. So if you only take a snapshot of what is now, it makes all the sense for every organization to just come together and let's just all collaborate. But what if people are just coherent in this moment, but the directions are entirely different? Suddenly you're leaving the conversation like, yeah, they were nice and they do so much and it's so relevant, but somehow there is no overlap. We don't know how to collaborate. Yeah, because the directions are so different. Or imagine an ecosystem moving somewhere and someone wanting to fully divert from that. Exploring this gap can also lead to way more fruitful outcomes than just talking about, okay, what do you do? So really exploring that, why are you heading there? Why do you think it's a good thing to do? And maybe it's great that we're diverting because we can cover two entirely different areas of the ecosystem. Or maybe there really is a tension that needs to be resolved. So also being able to map that space in between would lead to very, very interesting conversations and to actual collaboration or diversion. But at least there is clarity and the tension can be resolved.
To me, we're talking about like an AI facilitator. And I think that's really interesting. I love that idea, Yannik, of like the debrief afterwards and doing it in such a human way where it's like we can just speak our thoughts, almost like you're talking to your therapist, but it occurs to me, and also speaking to what you said, Victor, about like having the AI like actively engaged in the conversation. I feel like there's this also balance where the AI really needs to understand its place and how it is best as a collaborator, and it's not a human, And so what I wouldn't want is like an AI in the room that's like, you know, that's like interrupting, and like getting in the way of flow, because humans are the ones that continue to that flow. So yeah, just an interesting question of how to keep the balance between like the assistance and the collaboration and the wisdom that can come out of both, and like being distracted by an annoying AI.
Yes, thanks. And Daphne has left us. Um, we were aware of that. I forgot to mention that. But thanks for her to be here as well. Yeah, let's maybe check in. I don't know. I feel we've explored a lot here. I don't know, Christine, is this a moment maybe to reflect and sense what has been shared, and yeah, together see what's missing here?
Yeah, I haven't got a sense of synthesis myself yet. I feel like I've got like 7 different things I'm trying to like chew on, so I'm not sure what is needed to keep that chewing. So is it more talk or is it more focus? I mean, I'm open to whatever others want to do.
Maybe I'll pass it to you, Victor. Is there anything that you would love to touch upon still?
I think we've had a really exhaustive view, so that's great. I think a bunch of new angles and perspectives came up. I guess the question is, what is And we already had a similar call with Yumi and Christine, right? Exploring the big picture. So are we trying to create the inspiration for the big picture through this call, or a plan for what we will actually do for the MVP?
This is more for the envisioning together with our AI partners. And of course, this will influence also our roadmap and how we develop. So there is, of course, more practical steps that will come from it as well. It's not necessarily the goal right now, but if if there's anything, I'm also happy to flow with that. If we can see any concrete next steps, I also like to do a checkout round where everyone can share their reflections, what they take from the session, and what kind of seeds they want to plant moving forward from here. So that would be my next step. But if there's anything else, then
the only thought
feel
that
free.
I have is that I think the ideas that we have here are incredibly beautiful, and it'd be nice to create a synthesis article or something out of all of this. Definitely for coherence, but just generally for inspiring, the regenerative AI, right? And yeah, I mean, I think what we are all sitting here with is the vision for the AI that can make a more beautiful world, not the dystopian surveillance state. So it'd be great if we could find a way to synthesize and publish this for me. So I really love the ideas here.
Absolutely. That's one of the next steps we want to take from here as well. So we will definitely do that. Yannik, Andrew, is there anything alive for you? Maybe questions from your side. Let's just pass it to you. Let's see what's alive. Questions you would love to dive in a little bit at this point.
Well, I'll just say that I really appreciate this that you all have organized Coherence. I think it's been it's an interesting experiment that has, already just like the gathering in real life or in IRL, this has, sparked a lot of great connections, and it just feels like it can exponentially expand what's going on. And I also wanted to mention earlier that I think the way that you were doing the onboarding, I don't know if this is actually if it actually happened, but the idea of doing the onboarding conversation where that is making like kind of a profile, like that's instead of me having to type out a bunch of bullshit that I've typed out a million times before, like have that be the way to intake somebody. I think that's genius. And just more and more of this like humanizing the interaction, not just with the AI, but with technology in general. Like I think there's a huge power in that. So I love that you're kind of building and prototyping in public, and I would love that to continue. So if there's a way to support that, I'm here for it.
That wasn't really a question, but it's it's nice to hear. Yannik, do you have any question you would like to explore?
No, not really. Especially because we're spending 24/7 in that realm, which is amazing, but we're really reaching a point where I want to test the system with a large enough group of people and really having the system being able to listen and to create a map of both of ideas for sure, but also of directions, of intentions, and also to develop an understanding of how people are actually interacting with their technology. Because we have a Fathom note taker here in the call, which is great. But then 90% of people I talk to say, okay, I'm using a note taker, but I'm never having a look at the summaries. So we're having a case of we're throwing AI at a thing because it's nice and it gives us a feeling of confidence as well. I don't have to take my notes on the side. But then how many times are we actually using it afterwards? I mean, for you guys, it's fantastic because you like recording, you can publish it, right? You're really creating the possibility to interact with you and for people to follow. But how many times are we throwing a technological solution at a space where the problem is unclear? So I really want to, I would really love to make sure to have enough check-in points with everyone who's participating in Coherence to understand how are you actually using technology? What are you experiencing throughout these calls? Oh, wow, there's this big black box and the agent doesn't do it. Okay, perfect. Now we know how to also guide technology to a position where it's again of service and not just some computing unit sitting in. So it's less of a question, but more of something that I would love to bake into the system. Give it ears, really make it have it listen and digest and output something more interesting than people spoke about XYZ in this conversation. Which is relevant too, right? It's really relevant, but there are other dimensions which AI is missing at the moment. So if you can think of anything else that would make it more human, more useful, then yeah, I would just love to hear those softer elements. Like what is coming up for you?
That leads me to think of a very specific question, which is a curiosity about how you're going to use all this data afterwards and synthesize it. I mean, we have all these Fathom syntheses of all these conversations as well as the transcripts. Like, are those all going to get then filtered through another LLM to say like, okay, this is a space of conversation. These were the ideas that came up, again and again and again, kind of like we've been talking about with these agents. Like, can you do that? Can you prototype that kind of um, sense of what the larger direction of the conversation, and then the discrete conversations within certain, parts of the ecosystem? Are you going to use this data to try to prototype that? That's my question.
I have a couple of feelings. I don't know if I can answer that question, but I just had that sense of bringing in the problem space. So maybe that's linked with this idea of creating action out of conversation, or like identifying people's intention and what to do with it. But I don't know what that saying is, but it's like a problem identified is like 90% solved. I don't even know if that's the right percentage, but it's like being able to actually view the issue at hand, whatever that may be, clearly helps to move like the intention and the consciousness around that and to focalize on that. So another thing that I was thinking was like, why do we expect the AI to act like a human, like a superhuman? Why do we expect it to like be able to do all these things that we wish we could do? I mean, is that the only thing that we're able to imagine in that space? Just wondering.
Well, that one, Christine, is an easy answer. And the answer is yes, because we start with the mental models that we have, right? So over time, right? Like I give this example of how we use technology. The example of I emailed you the scan of this contract. Can you please print it out, sign it, scan it, and email it back to me? Which is a digital workflow, but not really, right? And then we figure out different ways of actually using the technology for what it has. So we need to build up mental models, but we always start off with the mental models that we have. And the best mental model that we have, or the richest mental model of intelligence and thinking that we have, is of humans, right? Even though nature has its own other models. So I think that's where we start, but then the question is how quickly can we develop new mental models of thinking about what AI can do that enable us to use it in a million other ways than just mimicking and being poor humans.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's very relevant. And
But I do love your question, and I think it's very important also, right? How far do we think of just anthropomorphizing the AI versus how much do we stretch to try and imagine of what it could be given what its basic nature is?
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd
really
love to.
nice. Yeah, great question and exploration. And what it's to build on that, what the AI can really do is the AI can surface all the mental models that we use in order to navigate this world right now. Because while AI is biased, we certainly carry like a level of bias which is like dramatically more than what an AI would carry, and it can also create the synthesis of all mental models that people within the ecosystem are carrying. And in that sense, circling back to what Bart said in the beginning, it's a huge mirror for us. So is it human? No, probably it's just mirroring what all the humans are giving in, given that the AI is also unbiased. Like who knows which system prompts are running behind OpenAI at the moment. But by developing it ourselves, we are definitely able to do that. And then what the AI really does at its core is just recognizing patterns. Like it's recognizing patterns and it's surfacing them. So it's in the end it's the ultimate tool for evolution, because if you see it, it just gives you a snapshot of, okay, where's the ecosystem right now, really, truly, and not just and you're able to build a picture that's bigger than the one that you've composed after 20 conversations. Suddenly it's 500. You're like, oh shit, okay, I was probably slightly off, and then that gives you a moment for self-reflection too.
Yeah, I wanted, maybe I'm the outlier, but I don't think of AI as human at all. I mean, to me, it is a pattern recognition machine that can mimic, can interface with us in a more human way than just like a spreadsheet or whatever, but or a graph. But that's what Yannick just spoke to, that ability to recognize patterns in a very large data set that would be much more difficult for us to comprehend and then synthesize that down. That's what it does, right? And anything else, I think, is kind of an illusion. So I don't know. I just wanted to say that I don't think of it as a human, and I think that that's maybe not true for everybody.
Yeah, this is such an interesting exploration. Just to throw something in, um, it's are we humans so different? Right? It's like, what is trauma? It's a pattern that you've learned when you were very young, for example, and dad always punished you when you've done something in a certain way. So you've learned a certain pattern, and that is limiting you. And you continue to repeat that pattern given certain triggers are present in the space until you make it present. And you're like, oh wow, I actually do not like that pattern. I'm gonna tweak it. Just like Elon is like, oh, what my AI is spitting out, I don't like that. Okay, I'll recognize the pattern. My AI is leaning towards I don't know, destroying the planet. Nah, let's maybe tweak it a little bit, just to put that question out into the room, because it's a very interesting space for reflection. I think this is where the AI is so strong. It's just a mirror again, and then it's up to us, what do we do with everything that is being reflected back, also to really understand our own nature. How do we operate as humans?
One more little piece I wanted to throw in there. Sorry, Bart, I saw you were coming online too, but it's this
No worries.
idea in terms of how we see ourselves and how we're operating. It's also like how are we as teachers? Because when we're thinking about training an AI, it's very much the way that we would think about raising a child. Um, and yeah, talking about trauma and the ability to wound children. I mean, Elon Musk's AI has an abusive parent and a bunch of abusive, like it's a trickle down thing, right? Um, and yeah, I have a friend who is at NVIDIA right now doing like, I don't know what he's doing even, but like, or actually I do know what he's doing. He's doing synthetic data, which is a fun term, but basically they're teaching the AIs. And his like main focus right now, he wants to leave, is because he feels like the people that are there, the ones that are teaching the AI, like so they're just yeah, it's like there's one thing where you like feed the AI a bunch of data, right? And that's unsupervised learning. And then there's the supervised learning where there's humans that go in and say, you know, this is right, this is wrong, and this is how they tweak the algorithms, right? So who is doing the teaching? And what does that say about us as humans? How are we parenting the AI? And this is where it gets a little blurry and we start to maybe think of it more as a human, right? But we're teaching it in a certain way to recognize patterns. What are the patterns that we want it to feel good about, and what are the other ones? So anyway, it's a blurry, but interesting.
Yeah. So it's also a big mirror for parenthood. How are we parenting as humans? Yeah. Can we wrap it up here for now? Yeah, how are you parenting AI? I think it's a beautiful prompt. Maybe that's one for next time. Yeah, thanks for all your input, your sharing, your thoughts, your dreams, your visions, your work. I love everything that we've been touching upon. It's been exhaustive, like Victor said. We've touched upon a lot of things, so I'm actually very curious here, like what can AI synthesize from this and help us structure and also see opportunities for how to integrate this, include this, and yeah, make it more practical. Well, we are already in contact for developing a prototype for Coherence. So I'm also very excited to dive into that. Um, Curious to hear more on that. Yannik, can you give a brief update on that? Just 1 minute. I'm actually very curious. How's that going on your side?
Yes. So the platform is ready. I mean, it's symbiosis. It received some major upgrades. It can now also host calls, conferences directly on the platform, transcribe, create summaries, and let them surface in through the platform. So any insights that you're getting from the calls can be pushed as media pieces directly to the platform, which is beautiful. People can interact with it. The chat interface is coming. We have the engine ready that can synthesize data so people can chat with the conversations that happened. And the next piece now that we're working on is really this element of the AI checking in with you after a call in order to build up another dimension of data to make it more intelligent in terms of weaving the next level of conversations together. So I see it almost like waves, as you mentioned. It's like we're at a wave of conversations, and then we're in a little bit of a reflective phase, and the next wave is coming. And ideally, one wave is carrying the wisdom of the other. So this is coming together in terms of very practical aspects. I think the chat window should be in the platform next week, and then we could start to use it. But I will check in with the team because the tech timelines are funky in space and time. But it's almost ready.
Cool. Well, I'm glad to kind of weave that little piece in as a closing to also show it's not just dreaming, but we're actually building the things that we're talking about. And like you were saying before, I'm also very excited to start testing, right? And start playing with it and seeing and feeling how it can actually help us. So yeah, really excited for that as next step. And let's do maybe a quick checkout round. Just sharing what are you taking from this session, and yeah, if there's anything you want to seed, if you want to plant a seed for us to cultivate something that can grow in our collective intelligence, or a concrete next step, a thought invitation. Who wants to start?
Okay. Yeah, first of all, a big thank you for all of you who developed this technology with the heart wide open. Because I think the major difference between the AI that will sit above humans versus the AI that is running in between all of us is the consciousness and the energy that the people who develop it put into the technology. This is so important. The models are sensitive, right? Every word that you're using differently is producing a different outcome, and the energy that you're putting into it while you interact with the models also can lead to dramatically different outcomes. So that baseline, that frequency that we're holding and that we're giving into it is the thing, right? And the AI should really always support us in that, and also alert us and when we're off that, right? It's like, hey guys, what's happening here? So this very personal element is extremely important to also help the AI to gain a different level of understanding and add more heart intelligence into the whole mix that it can then use to synthesize as well. And I'm really happy that our thinking and doing is revolving around that. That is just giving me a lot of comfort. And one thing that I would just love for everyone to explore, and to also feed back to us, I mean, always feel free to reach out, is mm, how do you really experience like conversations, and what are some indicators for you of like, wow, this was a great chat, we're moving forward. What are indicators of stagnation? Oh, this doesn't work. We don't have to figure it all out in before we actually start testing the system, but this can help us to dramatically increase the intelligence and also perceived effectiveness of the system if we can also understand better how are we experiencing conversation, and what are some triggers for wow, what are some triggers for "Nah, maybe not that anymore." And yeah, big thank you for holding the space, for creating those containers. Yeah, big pieces to create the hive. Really beautiful.
Can go next. Amen. Yannik. Well said. I love that. I think it's true. What we put into it is what we get out of it. And yeah, I'll just say again that what's being put into this what's coming from this space, like the regenerative space, and how people hold the frequency of their work and their lives and their vision for the future, and having that be the foundation and the teachers for the AI is, I think, so powerful. Maybe more powerful than we can even comprehend right now. So super grateful to, yeah, all of you for working with it. And yeah, in terms of like a very practical seed, I would really, as a participant in Coherence, I would really love just like a kind of uh, not to suggest that you wouldn't already be doing this, but I would love to get like a kind of very clear summary of like, okay, this is what happened. This many conversations happened, and like this is what we're now where we're going with it, and you're gonna stay up to date. You're gonna be involved. Because like right now I know because of the self-organizing, it's like there's a lot that just is kind of going on in the sidelines in the background. It's very organic. It feels just kind of like the container is being held by the participants, but to kind of conclude it for this chapter, at least, to have like a really clear human facilitation stepping in and saying, this is what we accomplished and this is what's next. I would love that. And yeah, also I would love to have a synthesis like we've been talking about of all the data and like what does that look like, even if it's not 100% accurate, just like what as an experiment, what happens when we put all this stuff into the blender and see what gets spit out. And then also, yeah, I would love it to be an open space, like whether it's in the same exact same form. Again, I don't know like how much bandwidth it takes for you all to be running behind the scenes, but just to kind of leave the space open so that these connections keep being made. Those would be my tangible seeds. Thank you all again.
Thank you. We're reaching the hour. Are you okay to go 5 minutes past?
I would like to check out and go back to sleep.
Yeah.
So I
Please
can
go.
wake up for another meeting 3 hours from now. No, I love the conversation. Thank you for bringing us together and holding the space. Also love the graphics during the thing. Would love to see. I was already planning and thinking of how to create an AI that would do that. I think this is a super important conversation, and I really look forward to how we can start implementing and also pulling in more and more big players into this field to have these conversations with us. Because, yeah, those are the most important questions to me, humans and AI, how can we be wiser together? How can we get the AIs to help us become superhumans?
My little checkout is I keep wondering if we are contributing to a shared space, and like, is that the primary motivation, or are we just supporting existing spaces, existing businesses in the world? And if it truly is a shared space, I think it would flow and feel and operate differently. And I think there's potential for a lot of agreement forming and alliances in different ways that maybe humans aren't used to, or that we don't have the opportunity to do in our current institutions or practices. So that would be really interesting for me to see more play in that way. So thank you, and yeah, hopefully there's more of these conversations to come.
Interesting. All right. Leaves me. I feel very inspired with this convening this conversation, and I want to relate to what Yannik was saying about the heart intelligence. I'm really glad that we are all on this path of developing that kind of intelligence. And in that sense, I hope that artificial intelligence is also a mirror for developing all these different modes of intelligence, not just the intellectual and the part that is currently dominating our world, but actually helps us to step more into that hard intelligence and maybe even also work with a higher intelligence that's beyond us, which I feel is very much present also. Also kind of in how the Hive team members met each other, and then how Coherence came on our path, and it feels like there is something emerging, through us, that we are simply in service to, and I really enjoy working with that intelligence, maybe even more than with the AI, and the AI is simply and something that helps us on that path, and it's a tool that's being gifted to us, and it's there, and I guess it's good that we keep exploring that with curiosity and humility, and with a lot of joy in the process. So glad to be sharing that journey with all of you. So that's me, and I think that's this session. Like suggested, we will be making an AI synthesis from this. There will be a recording that will be published. I'm very interested to check with Maggie. What about the art piece? If we can somehow get that. Victor, good night. Sleep well. Thanks for being here. Yeah, and there's enough to follow up with. Looking forward to dive further into the development of the prototype. Thank you all for being here, for showing up, and for doing all the work that you're doing.
Nice. Thank you. But just one logistical question. The meeting transcripts that have been generated already, can you share those with me so that whenever we're ready to start testing the system, we can already feed that in?
Good question. Let's check in on that. Yeah,
Perfect.
I'll reach out.
Just
Yeah,
to leave that as a hint.
perfect.
Cool.
Yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for creating the space, holding the container. Really nice.
my
Yeah.
pleasure.
And Andrew,
Thanks,
good to
Bart.
see you again, man.
You too,
Italy
Yannik.
is
Thanks for all
calling
your
soon.
work. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's be in touch soon. There's lots to catch up on.
Nice.
Cool. Thank you, Christine and Bart, for
Yeah, thank you all.
what you're doing.
Bart held it together.
You
He's
two
the
have it together.
man. Thanks, Bart.
Yeah, thank you, Christine.
That's it.
Cool.
That's it.
I'm pressing
Have
the
a good one.
button.
Goodbye.
See you in the
Pressing the
ethers.
button.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.